Hey guys, it's Mathil here once again, and with the Maroider MTX that just came out, of course, we had to make one and go big. Comically big. Basically, the character or the MTX does make you slightly more ripped, just, muscular, as you get more strength at a threshold of 150, 500, 1000, and 1500. So the goal of the character was to just stack some strength, make some sort of a meme character to get big, and in the end, this is the result. So had to kind of just abandon any real hope of making a proper, well-balanced character and just do one that can go large. And the reason we're so large and can go this big is thanks to Blunderbore and Gull interaction. So Blunderbore gives you lesser Massive Shrine and lesser Brutal Shrine always, as well as increasing the shrine effects by 75%. And then the Gull gives you longer shrines and also shrine effect as well. If you start just then running some shrines on your maps occasionally or speccing to the shrine nodes on your Atlas tree, you can pretty close to simulate some Headhunter gameplay in the end, at least old Headhunter gameplay. With Accelerate Shrine and Massive Shrine going off, you become pretty much what it used to be to run around with a Headhunter and just zoom through maps. And that's all the character really is at this point, and that's all I was trying to make it do, kind of just map around and be massive. It is, however, somewhat of an okay build. It's based off of Brutus Sled Sprinkler, so it is fire damage per strength, per 10 strength, and then it's just Cyclone Shockwave Chieftain. And that's good enough for mapping, and it's got a few million DPS for bosses as well, so it will be able to do some sort of bosses and some sort of high-end content, but the main kind of goal was to just be big, thick, large, strong, and then map around. And for that, it definitely can work. I didn't have much money to spend when making this character, and stat stacking is typically pretty high-end if you're going to go deep into the stat stacking, but I did what I could and almost hit 1500 strength and will be 1500 strength right as the character's basically done. But the whole meta for super speed farming, as you can see, is for shrines at the moment, I think, and then it's an excuse to use Blunderbore for the first time ever, and then Perma Rocker Gull as well, which is something I've never really done in endgame maps either, but is what it is, and we just had to go kind of big. The issue with the whole chieftain thing that I've got at the moment, though, just if we're talking about the build or ascendancies, is that since the buffs to rares and magics, having a lot of your power tied into your totems for the totem buff does feel a little bad, just occasionally having to stop and actually place your totems, whereas otherwise you would do it a lot rarer. So once the character gets to a certain level that's pretty thick and has good enough DPS, that's not too much of an issue. But before that, and especially on Sentinel, you pretty much have to be dropping your totems a lot of the time. So it's just a bit of an annoying issue there for a chieftain specifically, where a lot of your power is tied into your totem buffs. Otherwise, you can see that the AoE with Massive Shrine and Accelerate Shrine and all that gets you going, and the mapping is pretty silly at this level, but that's just kind of how the shrine stacking always has been, and probably always will be. I can't see it changing. So if you can't get a Headhunter and you think Headhunter's dead at this point and you want to do some speed farm, then shrines are still the way to go. And it's a few cast investment per map, otherwise some shrine passives on the Atlas tree. So the character is pretty much not gonna ever, I don't think, take on any Ubers. If you're gonna do some melee Ubers and stuff, you need to be extremely thick or have really big damage, and this character's kind of in between both of those things. He's got pretty decent defense, pretty okay damage, and that's not going to be a recipe for Ubers, I don't think. So I'll probably still try a couple of endgame bosses or some shit, but it's not going to be amazing, as I think my DPS is probably 3 or 4 million, which ain't anything special on the melee side of things, but it's just good for finishing a few challenges, doing some maps, and cruising through. Sentinel, however, is very noticeably thicker than everything else, so bear in mind that when you're mapping around and you hate Arch Nemesis or some shit, if you press Sentinel, then that's what's going to do you the most harm. because things get like what it feels like 5 to 10 times tankier sometimes, and that becomes a bit of an issue. And you can also see that Leap Slam in this build, since I'm using Shockwave, if you just attach some Leap Slam, can actually also clear as well. And it does do that quite often. This, however, is with an Echoing Shrine, so with the Shrine passives you will sometimes get Echo Shrines as well. And that does mean your builds can go kinda Super Saiyan, and lose all semblance of what they once were. In any case, I'm just going to go ahead and show you what the MTX properly looks like and how I've built the character thus far. So here is the character, currently level 89, chieftain called Not a Keto Diet. Just a suggestion from chat, nice toxic name that, is kind of funny. I have no problem with keto diets, do whatever works for you, and it's completely fine. So that's the level of strength and size that we're at, and like I said, a lot of that size is thanks to Blunderbore giving you the massive shrine. And then this is what our Marauder would look like without the MTX, without the massive shrine. Obviously you get substantially more jacked and slightly bigger thanks to the Blunderbore and the Gull interaction. This is at 1496 strength. However, if you have 1500, you do get another level. Actually, let me grab some regrets to make that happen. You do get a little bit more strength, a little bit more effect for the MTX, and then it looks like that. So you just get, a bit more of your Namahuing sort of red outline, and then slightly more vascular. You don't actually get any really thicker, like this is the peak thickness for the character, but you do get more vascular, and it highlights your entire redness. So it's the Maroider skin, and it is just purely for the body armor, and it can only be used in Marauders, and it gets gradually like tankier or like thicker as you go. So that might be the cleanest look that you like, maybe that, but also does interact pretty well with some character effects, like the gold, for example. Makes you a big golden god statue dude, and I've been enjoying that one as well. As well as that, the Divergent and the Astral have, some decent interactions here. Makes you kind of look like an Astral Thor in this case. I've gone for a bit of a Thor look myself. Specifically just because I like the way that this hat looks with everything else, but the hat, like just regular Marauder, looks a bit weird, and you can do lots of different hat interactions with this to set up a proper theme for your character. So yeah, this is just bullshit MTX talk, but I mean that's basically what the entire character is, nothing but a microtransaction, and I do think it's made some cool, the Ricardo thing, made some cool sort of looks on a certain beefy Marauder. However you like to do it. So what was I doing again? I already forgot. The Thor thing. Yep. So we are building around this Brutus Lead Sprinkler. Once again, just one of the easiest, most basic ways of strength stacking. Fire damage per 10 strength. You can get extra fire damage per strength on boots as well. It is a pretty rare Sentinel thing and costs a lot of money. Maybe there's a way of getting it reliably, but as far as I know, just like strength stack combined together and get it rarely, possibly. So that would enhance your damage by a good bit, but otherwise just Brutus Lead Sprinkler with a bunch of strength gets you, a decent amount of extra fire damage, as you can see here. Pretty much all my damage is fire off of Cyclone, and I'm also using Shockwave for the additional large clear. So Cyclone attached to Shockwave, Awaken Fire Pen, early damage with attacks, inspiration, and crit damage. Build is a bit low on crit damage, so had to do that as well. And then just because there's no strength in these two pieces, it's really tough to hit 1500, and I've had to do quite a bit to get there, and even as you could have just then seen, I'm not quite there. That's my actual strength number at the moment, but in another couple of levels as I'm going up here, I will be able to hit it. So a Lethal Pride does help, but this is just a very basic one. It's got some Intimidate and some Strength. That's pretty much it. Otherwise, I'm using a Cluster Jewel, try and get some extra strength, and the actual Cluster Jewel base itself kind of sucks, but it's mostly used for Cremator, so that we can destroy ignited enemies with hits, and it feels pretty good. Just makes the character feel a lot punchier, like kind of explosions, but not really. Then went for a Well, I was just trying to get some small strength passives with muscle, wall of muscle, but they are pretty hard to roll, and you use fundamental fossils to roll these things. And the best I could do here was a towering threat with some strength, which I'll take eventually, and also this one, which was just hit nothing but stats, and that's a bunch of stats, and that's actually a pretty sick Omni thing. So because each one of these nodes ends up giving you 30 to stats, but in my case that I care about, 18 strength and then 5 life. So then we just took those 3 nodes. Otherwise, yeah, plenty of masteries to get the 5 strength per allocated mastery, and you get fortify and some thickness, and increased attack damage per 16 strength, and increased fire damage per 20 strength. Good synergy there. Otherwise, yeah, just a bit of thickness here or there, a bit of block and glancing blows, so that I can actually get 74 block for attack with glancing blows, 60 with spell block, and that just smoothens out the incoming damage. Otherwise, determination, got defiance banner, can get a lot more life. At this stage I've got like 100% life to the tree with this much flat life. Strength stackers typically get a lot of life, so if I just spec like a 10% life point, I'll go up to 6400 or some shit, because it's so low on percent life at the moment. But I personally haven't really felt the need to go for much more life. Yeah, almost 6400 there. So you could obviously take this character like 7,500 life or some shit if you want, but I think we need more damage and also try and hit a meme strength number. So the rest of the gear, let's grab your synthesize, heavy belt, use some dex essences, because I did need some dex at the time. I no longer really need that too much with the jewel I made. Synthesized amulet, which needs a blessing, and then that would actually make me hit 1500 strength. Otherwise, some cheap ass rings that I bought, which just have some strength and a few stats that were needed to be filled out, accuracy and lightning. In this case, just int and strength, and a resist. Accuracy is completely fixed if you use a real hat in these strength stack builds. There's a warlord hat mod, warlord influence hat mod, that gives you accuracy per strength, and I would have been doing that, but I'm trying to go for the bigness memes, and that's why I'm still using a gull instead. But if you're trying to make a real character, then you can do the warlord influenced hat for that. Likewise, you can get a bunch of crit, strength, and usefulness on your chest, but instead using this, and I mean it does give you a lot of extra area, a little bit of damage, and also a bunch of life, so it's not exactly wrong to be using this, but it's more or less just a meme. And then, I don't know, tried to get ailment cap through this, and also on a shield. So I've got to scorch enemies when you block their damage, so that's why I've kind of gone heavy on block. So we've got scorch and brittle from both the boot ground and from the block here, and then I just copied a fracture of a shit shield onto this thanks to recombinators, and then just rolled it through harvest to get some ailment avoid. Happened to hit some block as well. It's pretty easy to get the ailment avoid and end up having some sort of good shield, especially with harvest, since fire, cold, lightning, all of that rolls ailment avoid comfortably, and it's a fairly common mod. And then just some fire exposure there, temple gloves, bit of strength, that sort of thing. I did recombinate these together to be good, otherwise, they're pretty basic gloves as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So I do also have leap slam attached to shockwave, life tap faster attacks, just so it can do some clear, but it doesn't really need to. And actually kind of annoying to set up your sentinels while leap slamming around, because you might just one shot an entire screen and you didn't get to set up the sentinel because of that. That's basically the character. Bit of a meme. Does actually work pretty well though with the map clearing, especially in tight corridor style areas. The ascendancy is a chieftain, and the first few points I took were, I did go for the strength to begin with, then took the totem nodes, then took the other totem nodes. They are a huge buff to your damage, and basically the reason chieftain can have good melee damage. So Panopticon, totem nodes up there on the anoint, and then that's where you get a whole bunch of damage scaling. For now though, guys, I think that's all I need to say. Hope you enjoyed the Maroider build and attempt at it. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.